Unlike the iPhone 7, the iPhone 10 did not hit me with buyer's remorse after getting the device. It's a truly new form factor and design in the iPhone family. It stands out. A little too much actually. After getting the iPhone 10 or even when watching the announcement live, I didn't seem to care much for the notch. It's there and it has a purpose. Just like the notch on the Essential phone. Could they have gotten rid of it? No, not unless you can fit the Essential phone's camera in the top bezel, which doesn't seem feasible, or the iPhone 10's front-facing sensors under the screen and still have them work as they do. Talking about the front sensors, Face ID has been truly tremendous. It now always works for me. If you checked out my original review of the iPhone 10, which I'll link here in case you haven't, I said that Face ID works for me 95% of the times, but now it works for me all the time. Over a month, the Face ID engine has recognized all the variations in my face and now just always works for me. Talking about the Face ID engine, it is also what powers Animoji. And as we saw when the iPhone 10 launched, Animoji was a big wave and then it crashed. But I still continue to use Animoji in my conversations with friends and family alike. I really love this new feature. The new gestures takes getting used to. After using an iPhone with a home button for over 8 years, just simply moving to something that is gesture based is not going to come easy. But once it becomes muscle memory, at least for me, using the home button on my iPad Pro has become quite an annoyance and sometimes even gives me fatigue. The performance on the iPhone 10, all powered by the A11 Bionic chip, which by the way it also shares with the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, the 8 Plus which we reviewed here. Even after the Spectre patch which hampered its single-threaded performance, if you want to check out a video on that, we made one right here. And all my day-to-day tasks like on-the-go data processing and raw photo editing and the like seem to work just fine, and they barely even heat up the iPhone. I kid you not, the last time I used my Nikon D7000 was to use it as a dummy video source for my upcoming Lilliput A7S field monitor review. The iPhone 10 has completely replaced the Nikon D7000 for me, and that has aged a lot. It's a 6-year-old DSLR. And compare the sizes, it's a lot bulkier than the iPhone 10. The camera outshines anything that I've used before on an iPhone, but it still has its own limitations. Its low light performance is not nearly as good as the performance on the Pixel 2 XL's camera, and once you hit ISO 800 on the iPhone 10, anything above that and your image quality starts to drop exponentially. Portrait mode is still not a very mature product, and it has a long way to go before it becomes a mature product and masses can adopt it. I no longer look at the iPhone 10 as Apple's anniversary edition phone. It has become a lot more than that. It has not only become the new industrial design benchmark for phones, but has also set precedent for what new smartphones need to become. Face ID clones are popping up everywhere now. Every fork of Android has one, albeit with a lot less security, and all of them show it as a novelty feature rather than an actual security checkpoint. I can, however, not ignore the elephant in the room. We now have 3 different flavors of iOS. iOS for iPad, iOS for iPhone, and iOS for iPhone 10. Or so I thought at first. What we now have is a proper fragmentation problem just like Android. And unless Apple does something about this very, very soon, like iOS 12, app developers are going to have a tough time making incredible apps that we love. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the phone doesn't have its own shortcomings. Numerous new UI quirks and horrible visual cues to go with it, no fast charger in the box, and insane repair costs all seem like an oversight on Apple's end, or maybe even intentional. It feels rushed, but hell does it feel good to have been using this phone over the last month. And the good news is, the iPhone X's ethos is here to stay, just like the original iPhone that started this all.